What's up, legends? It's Chronos here, bringing you part 1 of our epic news series, What If Deku Was the Strongest Hero? Today, we're diving into the journey of Izuku Deku Midoriya, a quirkless underdog who defies all odds to become the mightiest hero ever. Will he overcome the discrimination and achieve his dream, or will society's doubts hold him back? Get ready for an action-packed story with a twist. Big shout out to American Theorist Bros for this incredible scenario. And thank you all for your continuous support. You're the reason we keep going strong. Let's jump in. Here is a small fact. Not all men are treated equally. I had that beaten into me by Katsuki Bakugo all those years ago, a person I called a friend, who I respected and cared for. Now, he was unrecognizable, kicking a blue-haired girl for being a villain. What are you doing, Kaken? I stood in front of them, keeping my back towards that blue-haired girl. I'm showing her who's strong here. Not like you. Would understand that. I felt the absolute malice in his voice, and I felt fear of turning on who was my friend. But then, I looked behind me to see the brunette crying, with bruises along her face. Wait, she's older than me. Why would he pick on her? I didn't know why he decided to pick on her on that day, but I didn't care. I wasn't going to back down. Not for the world. Kaken, why are you doing this? He snickered sadistically, to which I was confused. Why do I have to explain myself to the likes of you? For some reason, despite the fear in my heart, my head was already piecing things together. He's not our friend anymore. God, the thought at the time scared me. But what scared me more was that I would give in to that pressure and let everyone take advantage of me. My preschool teacher passed me over for just a kid who couldn't do anything on his own. I'd always have people making fun of me for just being quirkless. But now, Katsuki crossed a line. As he was about to reach me, I punched him in the gut, throwing him off of me. He went flying by a few feet, but he didn't move further back. He clutched his stomach, but the atmosphere became so thick that I felt suffocated by it. Katsuki, don't do this. Or what? He sneered at me while activating his quirk by smashing his hands together. I didn't like that expression on him. Arrogance. You'll stop me with your imaginary quirk? Hey, just because I don't have a quirk doesn't mean I can't be a hero. I yelled, despite my bruised arms and legs. I stood strong, despite me being outnumbered, 3-1. Give it up, Deku. He sneered again like he was the only person who could ever become a hero. You will never be able to be a hero. You're worthless. He ran, this time, blinded by rage instead of his ego. His friends now were against me. Now, I was alone. Let's be heroes, like All Might. As I was falling unconscious, I remembered that time, when we were 3. Why? Why am I different from you now? I saw his eyes, looking down at me like I was an ant to him. I remember you and I watching All Might, beating up bad guys. We both promised each other to be heroes. Why do you look at me like that? Like, I'm nothing to you? I didn't even register the pain. My mind started to process my loneliness before I could even feel like I had broken any bones. I'm all alone, I said as I passed out from Katsuki's punch. The next thing I knew, I felt someone else's tears falling onto my skin. I slowly opened my eyes to find myself being embraced by my mom. She was crying and crying, and all I could do was feel guilty as I remembered what happened. No, I have Mom. I'm not alone. I remembered the video I watched, asking her if I could be a hero, like All Might. She only apologized, but I just felt useless at that moment too, just like I did at this moment. I can't do anything to comfort her. After all she's done for me. Izuku. She cried, wailing against my body. For a few minutes, we stayed like that. But then, she slowly pulled away from me, clearing her eyes in the process. I saw a new expression on her face, almost reflecting something inside me. Do you want to become a hero? Of course I do, I responded. Will you do anything it takes to become one? She already knew the answer to that. My expression hardened, and I just looked at her with all of the willpower and rage I had. I no longer looked like a 4-year-old with warm, comforting eyes. Now, they were dulled, and the only thing that kept me up was Bakuga's expression. I won't let anyone else feel that weak, ever again. Yes, I nodded. I want to be a hero, no matter what it takes, Mom. Usually, she'd shrug off my dream and worry about me. Now, she had no such expression in her eyes. All I saw was pride. She swallowed, but she didn't cry. Instead, she stood up and looked at me like I was twice my age. Let's go. I think I might know where you can achieve your dream, she said, giving me her hand, which I accepted. She walked me to the car, where I had sat in the passenger seat. We drove down. As we left our house, neighborhood, and community, I was going to ask her where we were going, but, as I remembered what she had said to me, I stayed quiet. It was one of the quietest trips we had gone through, and throughout, I just looked back at her. She looked like she knew exactly what to do, just as I did. Eventually, after going far past our home, we saw a small martial arts studio on top of a mountain. That's a lot of stairs. I looked at the top of the mountain, my mom's hand still holding on to me. Come on, Izuku. Let's go. She looked like she was hardening her own expression, like she was about to send me off to fight a war that she couldn't fight. But I nodded and walked the hundreds of steps to get up to the top of the mountain. Eventually, we walked to the front of the martial arts studio and knocked on the door. At first, we didn't hear anything, which made us worry for a bit. Is he gone? Key. Seconds later, we heard a man saying, I'm coming. I'm coming. Are you a new student? The person gruffly asked as he opened the door a crack. No, I wanted to get my son to join. My mom responded to the man. His eyes widened as he saw my mom, but it quickly fell. How old is he, and does he have a quirk? He asked, calmly. He is 4 years old and no, he does not have a quirk. Sorry, I can't help you. He closed the door, and my mom immediately pounded on the door again. Please, you have trained people who were quirkless. My mom's voice rang out. He opened the door a crack again, but he sounded like he wanted to not talk to her again. Like, she reminded him of something bad. I did, but they were above a certain age. A person's body, if they do not have the determination to pull through and become the best at using martial arts, will fail. Most children under the age of 10 don't have that determination. My son does. My mom's tone suddenly became deadly serious, lacking any empathy for the person she was speaking to. He wanted to save someone he barely knew from bullies, and he would jump into a battle if he knew he could save someone. He is determined to become a hero. He gasped in confusion, like he didn't expect that, but dropped the tone, opting for a more compassionate one. Are you sure you want to subject your child to such rigorous training? It isn't easy to learn the technique of fist of flowing water, crushed rock. He sounded regretful, like this was all too familiar to him. Ask him. He is right here after all. She pointed to me behind the door. The man had opened the door fully, and I saw what he looked like. He had spiked white hair, a black, full-sleeve shirt, and white pants. His features suggested he was old, showing a wrinkled face, with rough skin, and his face seemed to convey that he was put through a lot in his life. Betrayal was one of the emotions I saw on his face, along with déjà vu, as if he saw someone else in me. Young man. He crouched down to my height, and he put his finger under my chin, looking at me sympathetically. Do you truly want to learn this? You will face a lot of hardships from learning it, even though it will be very rewarding in the end. For the first few years, you will be in great pain from the work you will have to do. Unaffected, I say, yes, I do want to join. I wanted to become a hero, but I was made fun of by my friends, who wanted nothing to do with me after they gained quirks, and I didn't. They beat me up and made me feel weak. I never want to feel weak again. I don't want anyone to feel weak again. At first, he was stunned by what I had said. His eyes widened, and he stopped breathing for several seconds. Then, the wrinkles in his face relaxed as he smiled, like he was looking in the mirror, and he knew what I felt like. He rubbed his soft hand over my head of hair in an affectionate way. All right, I will train him to be the strongest. He looked up towards my mom for a single second, then looked at me with kind eyes. You will be able to achieve that dream of yours. He would never know how right he was. A decade had passed, and now, I was getting ready for my last few days at middle school. 7:30 a.m. I was outside my apartment, surrounded by 2 arms, keeping me in a warm embrace. Mom? I asked. She didn't speak, but I guess she didn't need to. Well done. I felt her say. Thank you for believing in me when no one else did. My hug conveyed that message to her. By the look she gave me, she understood what I had meant. After a kiss on the cheek, I went on my way. I've gotten stronger, haven't I? I lifted my shirt up, revealing my hidden six-pack abs. With my uniform on, I couldn't even tell that I was any less scrawny than I was years prior. But now, I knew I wasn't weak anymore. As I walked to the train station, the beach on my left shined, with the crystal-clear waters reflecting into my eyes. Even in the early spring, it looked amazing. That was hell to clean up. I couldn't even imagine it as dirty anymore. Or maybe my mind blocked it from looking dirty inside my mind, almost shielding me from the amount of pain I had to go through in order to clean it. Damn, I really was weak back then. I chuckled at something that my past self would have found hard. Running across the beach, I took off my shoes and socks and my uniform and laid them to the side, carrying only my phone in my pocket. Then, I ran. I imagined seeing hundreds of people cheering me on, like I was racing. Everyone had a board up, cheering for me. Bakugo looked happy, cheering me on. Everyone was cheering me on, wanting me to win the race. They all cared about me. They still had fear in their eyes, but it wasn't of me. They feared me losing. I smiled and pushed through, running my pace as fast as I could go. I crossed the checkered line, and everyone erupted with cheers with me. They were proud of me for winning. Everyone rushed down to get a picture taken or get a hug in, and my mother hugged me in front of the camera, and we both smiled at the pictures. But that thought disappeared within a blink of an eye when I heard the beeping of my phone. I immediately opened it up and looked at it. 14 minutes. That's a minute faster than usual. As I got back to reality, the truth set in. That would never happen if I didn't do anything about it. I shouldn't let myself drift off like that. Someone could have gotten hurt. As I walked, I checked the time on my watch. 7:45 a.m. Perfect timing. I quickly ran to middle school and got into class by 8:30, 15 minutes before the bell. I sat in the classroom and pulled out the assignments that I needed to turn in. I looked up, with students still pouring into the classroom. They didn't look at me, and some looked disgusted with being in my presence. But I was in my own world then. I've grown. I've changed, even from then. 1 month ago. Master, I said, taking off my shoes while bowing towards him with respect, and came on the dojo's wooden floor. Yes, Izuku? You haven't been here in a while, have you? He said softly. What ails you? I have come to ask. How have I improved compared to people with quirks? I said, revealing no arrogance, glee, or expectation. You have improved to the point where you can be able to achieve that dream you had told me of. You have the strength and a mind that makes sure that now, no one can now claim that you are powerless without being out of their mind. He and I shared a laugh, and I could only just think of the years beforehand. Too weak. Stand, Izuku. He told me then. I stood, and kept my stance all those years ago, despite my arms having been drained of all their strength. I later limped back home, with my arms and legs having deep gashes in them, ever since I joined. Why? Deku. Bakugo yelled years before. I hid my hiss and ignored him, stumbling back home. Don't call me Deku. Why? I felt a punch, and the next thing I knew, I was sent flying. However, I didn't falter. Instead, I started posing like a wolf, with my weight evenly divided between all of my limbs. Huh, so you've lost it and tried becoming an animal? His laugh was disgusting. At that moment, he reinforced the same idea that I had on that day. This world doesn't treat us as equals. However, I was weaker than him, so I couldn't do anything about it. I will get stronger than you. I was prepared to fight back. With a step, I felt my muscles contract and nearly collapse. I was going to lose before even getting strong enough. That's enough, children. Master Bang stepped in then. He kept me behind him and protected me. More than once, he helped me without anything in return. He didn't even charge my mom or me for the lessons, just wanting credit for his technique. Fist of flowing water, crushed rock. Thank you, Master. You've kept me on this path, even when I was too weak to do so. Thank you. Actually, why don't we test that? He challenged, as he set up his stance. Why don't we have a sparring match, one-on-one? Are you sure, Master? I asked. I knew he was sure. If he was challenging someone, he was dead serious. and he wouldn't pull back his punches. But Kogu might remember that challenge all too well. He lost to it after all. Yes, let's spar. You have gone in many tournaments now, haven't you? He said. He was right. Over the years, I competed in many tournaments, from breaking concrete blocks to showing my creative form to, yes, sparring. I have won every single one since I was 8. Yes, but none of them involved fighting you, I pointed out matter-of-factly. I suppose that's true. Despite himself, there was a certain level of pressure I felt from him. He wasn't going to pull any punches today with me. Come, Izuku, show that you can overcome me, and make the student surpass the teacher. The first person who hit the other wins. He got into his stance with a grin on his face. I couldn't turn down when he said it like that. It just pumped me up for what I was going to do in that fight. Yes, sir. He took a new stance, one that I hadn't seen before outside of him using it on. Bakugo. He used the same stance. If that's the stance he'll want to take. I didn't get intimidated by his stance, despite me remembering him sending Bakugo flying using that same stance. The atmosphere became so tense, I could hardly breathe. But I did. I didn't let myself become intimidated by his stance and stood strong in my ready stance. If I fail, I'd fail my master. I can't do that. I can't be intimidated by him. I felt my heart beat through my chest, but I still stood strong. But I was frozen in place. I couldn't attack. So he made the first attack, punching me at my side. He did it quickly, but I moved quicker and moved to the side, dodging his quick punch. However, I knew that wasn't going to be the only thing my master was capable of. Remember what I said, young man? My master said, don't overthink your situation, otherwise, someone will react and defeat you beforehand. Have you learned nothing that I have taught you? I swallowed the guilt, but stood strong, not being intimidated by my master. I quickly stepped in and tried to kick his knee and shin to make him go down while faking a punch. But of course, he anticipated that and tried to kick at my head. I stepped back, and without any successful hits on either of us, I moved back. Damn it, I need to land something on him. He took this time to attack, but I knew he would do this and moved behind him and planted a psychic on his back. He jumped back, with his fists whitening with how tight he kept them. He looked desperate to finish the fight. It was the longest single-point sparring session that either of us had ever been in, and clearly, he was giving it his all. He started using the fist of flowing water, crushed rock to try to hit me, but every time he missed. Move after move, I dodged every single move he made and saw an opening. His head. He isn't defending it. I smiled as I saw an opening from the multiple jabs, slashes, and slices from his hands. I went behind him to try to kick his leg. He jumped over it and, for the millisecond that he wasn't using his technique, I did a quick jab to try to get the point, and I landed it. Unfortunately, since I was so hyped on adrenaline from dodging his attacks, the light jab I meant to do sent him flying into the wall, creating a huge amount of dust. Master! I yelled. From the dust that was created, I saw a shadowy figure, one in the shape of my master, and he said, "Don't worry, I am fine. That was a strong punch you got there." The dust then cleared, but I saw that his confident face that I used to see from him had shattered, and all that was present was a pained expression. "Sorry, master." I immediately bowed to him. I didn't mean for it to be that strong. Then, I heard him chuckle. I saw his expression change, from one of pain to one of pride. He laughed, a wholesome and kind-hearted laugh, as I looked at him, confused. "Well then, the student truly has become the master," he said with pride, with not a hint of anger or sadness. "That means I have nothing more to teach you, Izuku. Congratulations, my boy. You really have grown." I started crying, and I hugged him. He seemed shocked by my hug, but he reciprocated the hug and patted me on the back. Eventually, I pulled away, and I vowed to come back here when I had gotten into UA. Then, afterward, I ran several miles to go back home. I eventually reached home, and I saw my mom waiting for me at the door. "Mom? What?" I wasn't able to ask my question before my mother immediately hugged me, softly. Unlike the hug I remember, it didn't feel like desperation, even though she was crying. She felt loose, and when she pulled away, she was smiling, not a fake one, like the one she would use when I was injured from working too hard, but a genuine smile, one with real happiness and pride behind it. I heard from your master, and he said that you beat him in a sparring match. You beat the best martial artist in the world. She looked like she was going to cry tears of joy again, with her smile never waning. I am proud of you, son. At times, I was worried about your health, but I never stopped believing in you. Now, you have become so strong, and without becoming like the people who have hurt you. She then proceeded to hug me tightly for a few seconds, before pulling back. Hey, for your victory, I will make your favorite katsudon, she said as she opened the door, and we both went in. I waited by the table, as she told me to, and she gave me my favorite dish. I said, thank you for the meal, and took my time to really enjoy the food instead of rushing to eat it, like I would eat other foods. Katsudon was, and still is, one of the foods that, for me, I ate for pleasure and taste, rather than just eating it to survive and get stronger. I savored the taste of it, along with the smell, and my body relaxed to the food. I finished the bowl of katsudon and asked my mother for seconds, knowing, after this point, I might not be able to enjoy it thoroughly. I finished the second bowl of katsudon and stopped in front of my mom. I smiled and I bowed to my mother. Thank you, Mom, both for the meal and for supporting me. She touched my back, indicating me to stand up, and she hugged me for the final time that day, and said, I'm your mom. As long as you aren't hurt, and you aren't hurting anyone, I will always support you. Those words inspired me, and I vowed, from that day and onwards, to never severely worry my mother. I assume you all want to be heroes, my teacher said, snapping me out of my thoughts, and, as I saw many other people being excited, I raised my hand determinedly. Now, excluding Midoriya, you all have wonderful quirks, my teacher said, calling me out and making everyone chuckle at me. I scoffed and chuckled myself, knowing how little they knew about me. But make sure you don't use it in school. Hey teach, don't lump me in with these losers. Bakugo came in, interrupting the teacher and the students. Many of the students didn't look visibly happy, and some even started yelling at him, even though they knew Bakugo's abilities and his anger management problems. So, you are also going to UA High School? The teacher said. Everyone exclaimed about how UA was so hard to get into, but I didn't really care. Also, who else is going? Bakugo screamed, with his eyes and tone leaking venom into the atmosphere, while he looked around the room. Why, the quirkless Izuku is going as well, the teacher said cockily. My teacher threw me under the bus. I sighed as I stood up. However, I know what to expect. In less than 3 seconds, everyone will turn around and say the words that I have gotten used to by this point. You can't be a hero. Screw that. I will become a hero, and no one will stop me, I said with no hesitation, with confidence sparkling within my voice. However, I knew exactly what was going to happen, and I knew no one would take that seriously. In their mind, it was like trying to become the best despite being the worst. Everyone had laughed at that, especially Bakugo. Oh my goodness, you really are a loser and an idiot. Are you Deku? He said as he calmed down from laughing so hard. He wiped his imaginary tears off his face and said, You think a quirkless nobody like you can get into the best school in the nation? Yes, I know I can, I said, as a powerful, almost angry aura appeared around me, breaking my stoic demeanor while surprising everyone in the room. I will become a hero, a better one than you. You're too self-absorbed. You haven't changed in the past 10 years. I have. That pissed Bakugo, to the point he was using his quirk. Using it, Bakugo sped towards me and crashed through the wall. He broke through it and destroyed the science classroom next door and the next 2 classrooms before stopping in the middle of another class. I looked through it, and I saw everyone look at me. My teacher was pissed, but not at Bakugo. Midoriya, Bakugo, office now. I groaned, but I reluctantly walked out of the classroom and towards the principal's office, with me crossing my fingers. I sat down, with Bakugo coming later. The principal came to meet with us, and he sighed while looking at us. Now, Midoriya, what you did was unacceptable. You threatened Bakugo's life and made him feel unsafe, forcing him to use his quirk on you. You will be facing consequences. You will be forced to do detention today, and you will be required to pay for the damages you have caused. The principal said to me as he handed me a bill. I was furious, but I didn't let it show ya. He showed me the bill, and despite the overwhelming amount of money they asked me to pay, my expression stayed purposely blank. On the inside, I was filled with rage. Because of something I didn't even do, I was going to pay, which would be more than what my mother and I earn over 10 months. All because I spoke out. All because of an insult. I looked at the now mummified Katsuki. He looked even more furious than I was, looking ready to explore the entire building if one bad thing happened. After the principal spoke, he exploded. "What the fuck are you talking about? Me, afraid of a quirkless nobody? Are you, He stopped as his mom came after hearing what happened to him, presumably. "Brat? You are picking on weaker kids again. How dare you hurt Izuku again, after he didn't touch you?" Miss Bakugo stormed in, already letting out a yell so loud that it could shatter eardrums. Hello Miss Bakugo." He looked at her, entering the office at the right time. He didn't even flinch to her yelling. "Though, what do you mean?" "Well, principal, from what I know, Izuku would never hurt, nor threaten, a person's life. Even if he did, he's quirkless. You think that people without a quirk would be able to even hurt someone else's life, much less someone with a powerful quirk like my son?" I hated what she said, her looking down on me, but I stayed silent. It was the only way I could get out of it. She also didn't know how strong I had gotten. The principal considered her words. "Well, that is a good point. But why would Bakugo attack him if he hadn't been aggravated or attacked? My brat over here, he likes to think he is superior to everyone else, and whoever doesn't listen will be made sure that they..." She suddenly looked at me, scanning my body for recent cuts and burns. She found none visible. "Wait, you don't even have any scars or burn marks. How?" He tried attacking me, and I moved out of the way. He plowed through several classrooms with his attack. She rubbed her temples like she wanted to prevent an incoming migraine. How you were able to dodge this brat's attack is beyond me, but the important thing is that none of you are hurt. She dismissed my strength like I was weak. I swallowed my anger because she didn't do it out of malice, just ignorance. But it still didn't sit right with me. I will pay for any of the damages. This brat was the one who caused it, so I will be responsible for it, said Ms. Bakugo, as she slapped her son for the bill. "I guess you were right, Ms. Bakugo. Izuku, you are still going to be in detention." I was still angry, but I knew if I questioned it anymore, I would end up with heavier consequences. "Okay, you two are dismissed to your classes." I left the office shortly after. "Oi, Izuku, meet me after detention." I turned towards Ms. Bakugo, who called after me, with expression I hadn't seen on her face. She looked worried. I raised my eyebrow, but nodded nonetheless. The school day passed like any other, and I went to detention. It was mostly boring, but wherever I sat, everyone just moved away, not wanting to get the weakness from me that was beaten over my head during detention. When I saw actually regular offenders, with drug usage and gang violence, alongside quirkless individuals like me, who I knew had no business being inside this detention class, I just did the small amount of work I needed to do, and just avoided everyone else. It was the only thing I could do. But afterward, I walked outside, where I saw Ms. Bakugo outside her car. "Why, Izuku, how are you doing?" She wore an unnatural smile, one that I didn't respond to. "Not much for small talk, huh?" She dropped her smile and looked at me like I was foreign to her. "How? Did you dodge him?" Katsuki, despite his arrogance, is a strong person. "So am I, Miss Bakugo." I quickly interrupted her. She was surprised by my quick answer, but I knew she wasn't going to be convinced by words. Plus, Bakugo isn't exactly smart. He makes himself easy to dodge if you actually see him do it beforehand. He keeps himself wide open because he doesn't think that anyone would ever hurt him, or that he could ever miss or lose. A bittersweet smile spread across her face. "You've changed, haven't you?" I raised my eyebrow but stayed silent. She sighed, looking down. "I remember that I wasn't even at home when he had caused that to you. He didn't bring it up, and your mom didn't even tell me. The police didn't either. This gray-haired guy randomly knocked on the door, telling me what happened. Inko didn't even mention it to me." She looked down, her lips tight. "Look, I'm sorry, Izuku." She looked at me with pride. "But I'm glad you've changed. You've become stronger now." She lifted her face, and I saw her teasing voice coming out of her mouth. "Who knows? You might get a few women drooling over you in a couple of years? I narrowed my eyes to her. Geez. She laughed, which made me soften my expression. I really couldn't get mad at her. She was a good friend with my mom, and I didn't want what was between Bakugo and I to interfere with their friendship. Though, seriously, you'll have a ton of girlfriends soon enough. Mark my words. I sighed. Thanks, I guess. I didn't exactly know how to respond to that. Anyways, thanks for listening to me. You're a good kid. Stay that way. She sat in her car and waved goodbye. Then, my mom appeared, shortly after Ms. Bakugo left. Are you okay, son? She asked as we went to the car and opened the driver's seat door. The car, despite it being almost a decade old, was in near mid-condition, with no mud, dirt, or even dust apparent on, in, or around the vehicle. I guess when you primarily walk to school, things change. Yeah, I don't have a scratch on me. I opened the door to go into the passenger seat. However, my lips thinned as I mustered the truth about me. People still call me weak. I looked down as I sat in the car, almost ashamed. My mom just looked concerned. Then why don't you show them that you are strong? You have defeated the best martial artist in the world. She faced me, giving me her undivided attention. Then something like this would happen. If I showed them my strength, they would think that I am someone like Garo. I looked up towards her. Garo? Who's that? I'll explain, Mom. She still didn't move the car, or even turn it on. Though, can you turn on the car? It's a little warm in here. Oh. My mom quickly fiddled with the keys, dropping them, before picking them up again, and then, starting the car. The AC turned on, and it took a while to actually start. But, when it did start, I felt much cooler. I felt the AC blowing on my face, and felt my body temperature lower. I closed my eyes, resting on the back headrest. He was a person who, through sheer determination and hard work, became so powerful that he could defeat almost everyone. She looked at me with surprise, but a surprising amount of familiarity. He was quirkless like me, and people thought he was weak because of it. People picked on him and hurt him. But when he became strong, he hurt anyone who was in his way. Heroes, villains, they all fell to him. The only person who was able to beat him was One Punch Man, who was a quirkless pro-hero who would be able to beat all of the other pro-heroes without even giving it his all. I spoke with a little bit of pride as I said the last part, smiling with my eyes closed. But, after they died, they were mostly treated as exceptions, and they repeated the cycle. They fear that I'll become like Garo. But you aren't like Garo. You are more like the One Punch Man. You want to be a hero, she said with unrivaled faith in me. Yeah, but with great power comes great responsibility. So I can't fault them for fearing me, considering there is no way to control me. I say disappointedly, which doesn't go unnoticed by my mom. Okay, so what do you want me to do? She said calmly. I want to be able to handle this, because, once they get to know me, they will think twice before either fearing or feeling superior to people like me. I say with confidence, and with nothing that could indicate that I didn't believe what I said. She laughed as she drove out of the school. I had a feeling you would say that. That is one of the reasons I love you. Yeah, I love you too, Mom. She pulled out of the parking space, and I just rested against the seat. Eventually, we left the school and reached home. But she didn't switch the car off. Yeah, Mom? She looked at me, seriousness in her eyes, and asked, So, when are you getting a girlfriend? I was confused by where this was coming from, as she never asked me about that. Honestly, I'm not sure. I don't know whether I should even be dating now. You should, otherwise, you will miss your life. My grandfather did that, and he left my mother with my mom, as he needed to be a hero. Wait, our grandfather was a hero? She smiled. Yeah, apparently. Apparently? That made me confused. But besides that, I know that there are going to be people out there who would love you besides me. Plus, I want grandchildren someday. She teased, with the expectation of me being a blushing mess. Mom, please don't say that. I already had a small blush on my face. Well, it is true, but you don't have to have a girlfriend right now, as there is a lot of pressure that you have. But, I am sure, once you get into UA, you will be able to have multiple girlfriends, she said, again, teasing me. Mom, I groaned, dreading actually meeting another girl. However, at that moment, I didn't know how right she was. I was running, faster than I have ever run before, at over 80 miles per hour. Unlike the people running away, however, I was running towards danger, all to prevent a person's death. Everyone who saw me running was calling me to stop, to turn back, but I didn't listen, thinking of my dream, to save others and give others hope. I jumped the robot's full height, and with the power of a nuclear bomb, I raised my fist and yelled out, as loud as I could while punching the robot to the ground, "Hiroshima smash!" Half an hour ago, I was walking to the exam location when I felt someone push me to the side. I looked over and saw Katsuki had walked past me after he pushed me out of his way. Anger flowed through me, but I calmed myself quickly since I didn't want to cause an unnecessary fight. I walked past him and inside the location, where I had to sit next to Katsuki because we were in the same school. When I sat down, I thought of some strategies. Should I use my strength, or use the fist of flowing water crushed rock technique? The latter would be best used against humans or people with human weaknesses, but brute strength would be used in times where I need to beat a strong enemy. Of course, there are other options, but those are the most simple and the first to come to my mind. A man with blonde, spiky hair, sunglasses, and a heavy speaker system on his neck came onto the stage, interrupting my thoughts. As he came onto the stage, his clothing became apparent, wearing black boots, a black jacket with beige shoulder pads, and black pants. I wrote about heroes and drew them in the hero journals I made, 1 to 13, so I knew who he was, Hisashi Yamada, also known as Present Mike. His quirk, called voice, makes him able to amplify his voice, either in volume or in pitch. I was interested in why he was here, but I had to hear what he said. "Welcome to today's live performance. Everyone say hey," he said with passion. However, no one responded. I see he looks a little annoyed, but he discarded his expression before anyone else noticed and said, "Well, that's cool. My examinee listeners, I am here to present the guidelines of your practical. Are you ready?" More silence came from the audience. Now, many of the people could now see his annoyed expression, but he discarded it again to explain the practical exam. He then went on to explain the test and how we had to destroy robots to get the most amount of points. One guy then pointed out how there were 4, but then Present Mike addressed it by saying that the 4th type of enemy gave no points and was more of an obstacle than anything else, while the others gave 1, 2, or 3 points respectively. That's all from me. I leave my listeners with our school motto. The great hero Napoleon Bonaparte once said, "True heroism consists in being superior to the ills of life. Plus ultra, break a leg, everyone." After his announcement, I want to go for the practical examination. I remember that the test consists of us fighting robots in the replica of a city. However, it's to scale, so I would need to move significantly faster. It looks as big as the city back home, having wide streets, several stories high buildings, and other things that the city I lived in had. So I know that I would have to push 60 miles per hour to go across the city quickly. I then looked at the people around me, who were either talking or saying how the city looked massive. Looks like everyone forgets that this is a test. I know they would be dazed when Present Mike starts the exam, giving me a 3 seconds head start before the first person reacted, and around 5 for the rest of them reacting. I thought before preparing myself for the signal from Present Mike, not wasting time talking or other things. So, looks like the technique and the teachings of Master Bang will not come into play today, I thought, disappointed. But what it does mean is that I can still be able to pass the exam. The strength that I have gained should come in handy when everyone is behind me. I remember standing up for that one kid who was being bullied by Katsuki and thought of all I have gone through to get here. I smiled, temporarily weakening my stoic demeanor. Everything that I have done has come together to this moment. Now, I can't disappoint everyone. Mom, Master Bang, they're counting on me. I was now ready. Present Mike then said, "Go," surprising everyone except me. I ran, 60 miles per hour, and beat up every robot inside in 3 seconds, causing a temporary shock from the exam takers before they suddenly realized what was happening. 1-pointers, 2-pointers, 3-pointers, they all fell down as soon as I saw them. I jumped off the sides of buildings, punched through them, and kept going. Every time I destroyed a robot, I felt an enormous amount of power flowing through me, and right now, I wield the power of Geru. After a significant amount of time had passed, and after I destroyed most of the robots, I began to calculate my score. Wait, 80 points? That's higher than I thought I would get. How strong can I be? As if someone had read my thoughts, one of the zero-pointers showed up. Many people ran away from it. I was going to avoid the zero-point robot in particular until I saw someone was trapped in the way of the robot. She was a brunette. She had a round face, and she, at that moment, looked terrified. Her legs were crushed under rubble, and she couldn't move. I knew I had to save her. She looked scared. She has the same look I had when I was defending that kid against Katsuki. Her life may end before it has begun. I have to save her. Otherwise, what kind of hero am I? I said a slightly altered quote from All Might. There is nothing to fear because I am here. Before running to the robot using my strength to make the multi-story high robot crumble. I punched so hard that I went through the robot. I was going to fall into one of the buildings and possibly get injured, but I quickly realized what was happening and rebounded off of one of the buildings on an angle, so I wouldn't absorb the full amount of force, and even though the building would be weakened, it wouldn't fall. I rebounded against a few buildings before making it safely on the ground, not totally unscathed, but I had no injuries. I then looked at where the robot once stood. The zero-pointer, once towering over everything, now laid on the ground in pieces. Then Present Mike has said the test has finished. After I had seen the girl with her legs under the rubble calm down, I offered her my hand to help her up and sincerely asked, "Are you all right?" She looked up, and for a second, I saw her blush. I was confused until I realized that, in my act to save her, my shirt had been torn apart, and she was looking at me shirtless. Ignoring my pounding heart and slight embarrassment, I asked again, "Are you okay?" She then shook her face and said, in a sweet voice, "Yeah, thanks to you." She then accepted my hand, then tried to stand up without using me for support, but then immediately, her legs and ankle buckled with the bruising on it, and she began to fall down. I grabbed her by her arms before she could fall, and gently placed one of her arms around my neck and shoulder to support her. "Sorry if this makes you uncomfortable, but I have to get you to the nurse, and you clearly aren't in a state to walk. Is that okay?" I turned my head towards her. She then nodded her head, blushing again. As her face turned heavily pink as she probably realized how close she was to me and faced away from me. Where's the nurse? I finally looked at the people around me. Everyone's jaws were wide open, and they looked stunned. I didn't know whether that was bad or good. Then, the people taking the test said, "How did you do that? How were you able to take down that zero-pointer?" With no sympathy, and with some venom in my voice, I said, "The answer is simple, because I actually did what a hero is supposed to do. Save people from harm, regardless of the situation. Now, if you would be so kind as to move instead of standing around, I need to get her to the nurse's office," I said as I tried to balance the person's weight on me. Everyone shut up and moved out of my way so I could carry the person to the nurse's office. I balanced her weight on me and started walking towards the main building. She seemed quiet, and she was blushing quite a bit, and she looked cute, but I wouldn't admit that to her. "Hey, what's your name?" the girl I was carrying said as we were walking, snapping me out of my thoughts. "Oh, my name is Izuku Midoriya. What's yours?" I said, now realizing we were in the main building and trying to navigate the place. "Achiko Uraraka." She waited for a few minutes before saying, "Thank you for saving me. It was nothing. I bet anyone else would be able to beat it," I said humbly, fully believing that statement. If anyone had the courage to save her, they would have been able to. "You saved my life. You acted like a true hero. What's your quirk?" "I don't have one," I said seriously. I instantly regretted it. "What? How?" she suddenly yelled out. "Please do not yell, Uraraka," I say while wincing at her loud voice. "Oh, sorry," she apologized. "But how could you be able to take that robot down without a quirk?" "Through a hell of a lot of training," I admitted while shivering, "and a lot of determination and drive. I worked for 10 years of my life so I could become a hero," I said as the nurse's office was in sight. "Why did you want to become a hero?" she asked curiously, all signs of blushing and embarrassment removed from her face. "Because I wanted to save people from harm, give hope to the hopeless, and inspire others like me to become a hero," I said seriously, as Uraraka's eyes widened from hearing that. "Wow, that is an incredibly noble and selfless goal. It makes me feel like my reason for being a hero is pathetic." she said as the sadness crept into her voice. Hey, no matter the reason, the fact that you want to be a hero, and not anything else, means that you want to save others from harm, don't you? I said with a smile, trying to cheer her up. Yes, I do want to save others, she said, removing the sadness from her voice. Let's be heroes together. Yeah. I smiled at her innocent personality, and her voice made me happy. My heart started beating irregularly. I felt more aware, and my breathing slowed. Her smile and face, it makes me feel a certain way. My body feels warm with her smile. I have no idea what I am feeling, whether it is love or infatuation. But I know that, whether love, infatuation, or anything else, my determination must not falter. I need to become a hero. I can't have whatever I am feeling get in the way, otherwise, I would be compromised, and I couldn't be able to achieve my dream. I need to stay focused. I slightly scolded myself for feeling whatever I was feeling, even though it was foreign to me. Anyway, thank you for bringing me here to the nurse's office, she said as I realized we were at the nurse's office. I moved her arm off of me, and I saw her look slightly disappointed before I carried her bridal style, making her entire face red with embarrassment before I placed her on the hospital-like bed. No problem. I hope I will see you soon at school, I said as I walked away. I have to ignore whatever I am feeling. It is the only way to become a hero, I thought as I walked out. Hey, Midoriya? I said, turning around to see her face once again. Thank you for saving my life, she said, smiling as widely as she could, despite the pain she was feeling. I was going to reiterate that anyone else could have saved her, but instead, I said, you're welcome. You deserve to live your life as a hero. See you at school. She looked like she was surprised, but then nodded and said, bye. I walked back home that day, feeling calm, but uneasy. My emotions were all over the place, but I had to push through. I have to become a hero. A week later, my mom had gotten the mail and saw UA High School on the letter. She gave it to me, so I went to my room, not entirely knowing what to expect. I opened it up and saw a small projector. I put it on my desk in my room and saw All Might. This is a projection, I heard loudly. I slightly chuckled at All Might pointing out the obvious, before I stopped and thought, wait, why is All Might in this? He is the symbol of peace, not a teacher at UA, who are the ones who are being recorded as they give the results. Unless? My eyes widened as I realized why All Might would be here. Well, Izuku Midoriya, you have done an amazing job, and the reason I am on this, giving your exam results to you here, is that I am going to be teaching at UA, he said, confirming my thoughts. So, I hope that. Wait, I will have to do more of these? How many? Someone said a number in the background that I wasn't able to fully hear, but, due to the fact that All Might sighed, it seemed like he had to do a lot of these after mine. Well, I guess I will get to the point. On the written portion, you had achieved a perfect score. In the practical, you also demonstrated heroism in the face of that 0-pointer, and you have gotten 80 points, higher than any other person taking the test this year. I was proud when I heard that score, but it seemed like he wasn't finished, as he took a massive breath in, before saying, however, and I hate to say this, but due to the nature of your power, many teachers and students showed fear of you. Others said how you weren't strong enough to be a hero. Some outright denied to have you in the school. But what many of the teachers had said was that you can't be a hero, he said somberly. I looked downward, sort of expecting this, but not hoping it to happen. Tears slowly and softly leaked out of my eyes. My once stoic face broke down, and now, I felt empty. Tears continually poured down from my eyes, and I couldn't stop it. I knew this was going to happen. Why though? Why am I being stopped from achieving my dream because of the fact that I don't have a quirk? I asked myself rhetorically. Why can't I just save people and give hope to the hopeless? That's all I've wanted to do. Why? What was all that work for? I remembered the time when I had defended myself against Katsuki's quirk, and yet, I was blamed. I then remembered the multiple times I had been separated from others because I had no quirk. I had to work a multitude of times harder than everyone else did. However, when I had proven my strength, many people acted in fear of me. Unlike my goal to give hope to the hopeless. It was either that I was a weakling who wasn't deserving of respect, or I was a powerful person who was to be feared and contained, only because they couldn't understand me, or they couldn't deal with me. I was about to shut it off, but 1. I realized that there was no shut off button, and 2. It wasn't done. But some people, including me, felt like convincing the teachers. All Might said smugly as a screen appeared behind him, and he backed away from it. I slowly stopped crying and wiped my tears off of my face after I had realized what he has said. All Might stood up for me? Wait, he said others. Who else stood up for me? I thought, more confused than sad now. As if the screen had read my mind, I saw Uraraka along with the other students who had taken the test with me crowding around Present Mike. Hello, are you Present Mike? One student said. We wanted to ask about Izuku Midoriya. Many other students came in to say at the same time. I wasn't sure if that was coordinated until I saw them weirded out, and they stopped their synced speaking. Everyone started describing me, from the freckles on my face, to my curly green hair, to a lot of other things, like face shape, and a lot of people said I looked plain, which I found to be slightly laughable that they would find the stoic, bland nature of my face to be a defining characteristic of who I was. However, I listened to them anyway, curious about where this would go. Will he go into UA? Uraraka asked at once, silencing everyone around her. Everyone looked expectantly at Present Mike. He sighed. No, he said in a serious voice, surprising everyone. Most of the teachers didn't want him in their classroom. He is quirkless, and we can't guarantee he will go down the path of a hero because of that. Also, despite his strength, he is nowhere near the strength of a person with a quirk. So, for those reasons, he can't be a hero. So, their logic is that, if I ever feel like I don't want to be a hero, they can't stop me. Why would they obstruct my dream and my work just because they don't know if they can control me? I was close to losing my cool, but I didn't explode yet. Everyone looked stunned, but, for a few seconds, no one said anything. Well, Uraraka came in, sounding serious. If he can't be a hero, and if he isn't strong enough, then I don't deserve to be one either. Let him take my place instead. Huh? I said, along with Present Mike, confused again. The anger I had mostly evaporated. No, mine. He is a true hero. More students began to speak out. No, have him take my place. He is nobler than I could ever be. Everyone who had taken the test with me had yelled out to either to convince him by saying what I had done that made me deserving of being in UA, or were asking to give up their positions as long as I got in. Present Mike looked overwhelmed with the number of people supporting me, while I was inspired by the overwhelming amount of people who had sided with me, regardless of what they had been told. All these guys, despite the amount of hatred I showed them, they have sided with me? I should definitely apologize to them. I felt guilty for what I had said before. I have a 200 IQ. I should act like I am that intelligent. But the person I will need to thank, feelings aside, is Uraraka. Maybe I am blinded by infatuation, but she has stood up for me, inspiring others to as well, when no one would have stood up for me otherwise. I also have to make sure that I surpass their expectations of me. I need to make sure that I deserve their fight for me. Then, All Might came behind Present Mike, resting his giant hands over Present Mick's shoulders in the video, and said to everyone, if a quirkless person like young Midoriya can inspire and save people, then who are we to turn them down? That would go against everything we have stood for. So, with that in mind, Izuku Midoriya is allowed to go to UA if he has a high enough score on his practical and the writing portion. Then, the video stopped, and then, All Might came in front of the screen, almost eclipsing it with his torso. And you did. Not only did you get the highest score in this year's practical test and written test, but, because of your actions, you have gotten extra points. That 0-pointer was a test, and it was seen to test the resolve of the future heroes. We awarded people who had stopped at rescue points. You were the only one who stepped in. So you have gotten an extra 70 points, 10 from each of our 7 judges. With that, you have the highest score of 150. That is 50 points higher than what I had achieved. So, congratulations Izuku Midoriya. This will be your hero academia. I was crying again, except, instead of tears of sadness, it was tears of joy. Finally, all that work was worth it. Now, I can become a hero. I thought happily. I went outside of my room by opening the door, and I said, Mom, I got in. She then proceeded to hug me tightly, with me enveloped in her. She gave the best hugs, giving me what I needed emotionally, even if she didn't know it. Thank you, Mom, for supporting me. After I had hugged her, I went to bed, remembering all the people that had fought for my place in the academy. It made me smile, even though I knew that not everyone would support or had supported me. I need to make everyone proud. I may be quirkless, but that won't stop me from becoming the strongest hero. Izuku POV. I was getting ready for my first day at UA Academy, while my mom was making sure I had everything with me. I woke up early so I could prepare, and I made sure that my tie was correctly tied. My mom, instead of hugging me, complimented me on how I looked, and then pushed me out the door, then closing it after I was out of there. As I went to UA, I then remembered my first meeting with All Might. I remember that time when I insulted him on the beach, and how he turned that insult as a motivation to become a better hero. Maybe I went a bit too far. Then again, what would he have done if I hadn't said what I had? 3 months ago, at the beach, I was running along the beach that I had cleaned up when I saw someone I didn't expect. Who is that? He has blonde hair, sullen eyes, and he slouches quite a bit. He doesn't remind me of anyone I know, but this beach isn't owned by me or my family, so he could be anyone. I was about to shrug it off. However, he then surprised me by saying my name as I passed him. Izuku Midoriya. I registered that about a second after passing him. My eyes widened in surprise, and it took 10 seconds for me to stop. I was far enough from him that, if he was a powerful villain, I could prepare for his attack, but close enough that I would be able to hear what he is saying. Who is he? I ran at 60 miles per hour, and he didn't flinch. Granted, that isn't my top running speed, but that is faster than most cars are allowed to go. This guy might be serious. My arms tightened, and my brain was on overdrive. Time slowed down for me, and I suddenly had an awareness of everything that was happening. The gust of wind from the ocean, the rising and falling tides, the movement of sand across the beach. I became hyper-aware. Don't worry, I am not here to harm you, Izuku Midoriya, he said in a familiar voice. He seemed to know who I am and noticed my anxiety and how aware I was of what was happening, and tried to calm me down. Wait, that voice sounds like the voice of someone I have heard of. Let me start with the heroes that I know. It can't be Endeavor, Edgeshot, or Wash based on his appearance. It could be a shapeshifter, but, from what I see, based on the color of his hair, his voice, and his demeanor, it could only be. No, that's impossible. Is it? I thought over 5 seconds after I checked my surroundings, in the watch I had worn while jogging. Wait, are you All Might? I said confused, suddenly jumping out of my hyper-aware state and lowering my guard. I realized that my assessment was right when his sullen eyes widened, and his mouth widened. But he realized that he looked terrified, and calmed himself. He looked impressed, if a bit scared, and said, "Huh? You are that smart? You can be able to tell who I am based on just 2 sentences and looking at me? Well, sort of." I consciously scratched the back of my head. When I passed you, a gust of wind blew across you from me running, and I saw the inside of your clothing. The size doesn't fit you, and the clothing has All Might's civilian name on the inside of them. So unless you somehow were able to steal All Might's clothing, which is unlikely, you are All Might. I lied. I looked into his shirt, but I didn't see the name on the inside of the shirt, and I didn't know whether I should tell him my full intellect and my full power, even if he is my idol. I scratched my head to make my lie more convincing. Oh, looks like that might be a problem when I am escaping from the press and fans, he said while laughing at his joke, before getting serious. You're right, I did mark it with my name. I am surprised you were able to catch it though. He now seemed relaxed after I told him my lie. A few seconds passed. Time then flowed naturally from my perspective. So, why did you defend me, All Might? I said, finally breaking the ice and asking the question that was on my mind for ages. Well, I saw something in you, as I said in the video. All Might's voice suddenly became soft. I saw someone who was like me. Someone who, regardless of how strong they were, and regardless of the situation, would be willing to put their life on the line for the sake of saving someone else. He saw himself in me? Wait, he said, regardless of how strong they were. Why would he say that? He said that I was like him. Does that mean he was quirkless? Or was he just trying to be nice to me? It may be the latter, so let me ask a few more questions. But, was there any other reason that you vouched for me? He then sighed and looked at me sadly, like he was worried about what he would say next. And if he could trust me with a secret, I was quirkless like you. I faced the same thing you did. Only I didn't experience discrimination through schooling. I nodded for him to elaborate. I then saw him then look away from me, before saying, with despair and pain laced in his voice, I don't have a quirk, and I never did. I'll explain it later, but I can't tell you now. I don't know how people would react if they knew who I am. Wait, why? This would give so many people hope to become a hero. If the strongest hero is quirkless, this would mean that anyone can become a hero, quirkless or not. I said, slightly angry at why he would leave his quirk status a mystery. So many quirkless people commit suicide every day. Thousands of quirkless people die every week, with seemingly no limits, because many of them weren't allowed to learn how to defend themselves. If he revealed the fact that the strongest hero has no quirk, and revealing what he isn't revealing to me, sure, his popularity might take a hit, but quirkless people will be treated better. Many people would be able to get jobs, regardless of their quirk, or lack thereof. People could achieve their dreams, and quirks wouldn't stand in the way. Well, I'm not the hope for someone to become a hero. I didn't become this strong through a mundane exercise. I didn't do 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and 100 squats, and a 10 kilometers run every day for 3 years to become this strong without a quirk. I made sure that my exercise routine couldn't be followed by anyone because I can't be a hero if I would depend on others. I am the hope that there is one person is out there who will save people and bring justice to the wicked. Well, then you are a crappy hero then, I say, making me stop with trying to speak to him as someone I idolize. I realized that he needed to change, and I, through my words, needed to show that to him. Excuse me? All Might then shifted to his more powerful form. He towered over me, with his muscles capable of destroying a building. I didn't flinch. I looked up towards him and said, putting so much on yourself means that you are the breaking point of all of Japan. A strong one, but a breaking point nonetheless. What would happen if you couldn't save everyone? Or when you faced someone who could beat you? What then, huh? The entirety of Japan, no, the world, would be wiped out if you weren't around because you can't inspire people to defend themselves. I said, trying to make my words tower over him, forcing him to listen. I need to speak my mind to him, otherwise, the world around us would face certain doom if he couldn't save it. Since he is a person of power, he could make sure that the world would be safe without him. If only I can convince him. He sighed again before shifting to his less powerful form and looked downwards while saying, you are right. I know that. I know I have to change, but I know that some people can't defend themselves, while I can defend everyone. I still didn't stop my harsh attitude, and I still needed to convince him to do what I say. Well, look at me. I am quirkless, and yet I got a higher score than you when you went to UA. I wasn't a huge outlier. I was average 4-year-old, who tried their hardest to become strong, learning martial arts, how to control myself, and everything else that I needed to learn. I took in a breath, which I also used to collect my thoughts and to let the words that I said sink in before saying, yes, not everyone has the drive to become a hero. However, that doesn't mean that you can shun the people who do and prevent the fighting and heroic spirit that is common in true heroes. Regardless of their powers or their background, people, with dedication and determination, people can achieve anything. I clasped my hands together while saying, you need to inspire that determination. Anyone and everyone, I said while spreading my arms out wide, representing the people around the world, can have the drive to work hard if they can be inspired. You need to make sure that people will work hard and learn how to defend themselves, otherwise, when you die, either through old age or through a battle, I said while imagining the destroyed world, Japan and the world will be in ruins. He then smiled sadly, showing a man whose entire life had just been put into question by me. Huh, I can't believe I am saying this, but you're right? He sighed sadly. Seriously, you are right. I need to become an inspiring hero. He then started to chuckle, but somberly, not the warm and joyous laugh that I had heard. You are only 14, and yet, I feel as if you are already a better hero than I am at my 40s. You are a true hero. He then proceeded to sit down on the beach in front of me and looked saddened, like he was contemplating his death and the pressure he had put on himself. I then felt a little guilty of what I had done. Come on, maybe the criticism was warranted, but not at this time. and not to the person who got you into the school of your dreams. I mentally scolded myself. All Might, I am dash. Don't be, All Might said, interrupting my apology before sounding inspired. You have said exactly what I needed to hear. I need to become an inspiring hero for all those that live, and I need to become a better hero before I die. Wait, die? He can't be dying, can he? I suddenly became worried before All Might silenced me by raising his hand in his deflated form. 5 years ago, a strong enemy did this to me. He then proceeded to lift his shirt. I saw his chest, which didn't look defined and tough like I imagined it to be, but it looked rather bruised, and his side had a gash in it from the outside, outlined in his skin. My respiratory system was nearly destroyed, and my stomach was removed, and I have wasted away because of the aftereffects of the surgeries. I can now only do hero work for 3 hours each day. Wait, 5 years ago. My eyes widened as I remembered what happened that year. When you fought Toxic Chainsaw 5 years ago, he did this to you? 1. Good job. You did your homework on me, and 2. No, that lowlife could never be able to defeat me. He then proceeded to stand up. When he stood up, he said, "This was never made public. That is, I asked that it not be made public. The symbol of peace who saves people with a smile must never be daunted by evil." He then looked away from me and looked at the buildings near the beach, saying, "The reason I smile is to stave off the overwhelming pressure I feel. A pro should always be ready to risk his life." He then turned towards my direction but didn't look me in the eye, as if he was afraid. "Like you did. You risked your life to save that girl, even though you didn't know her. That is true heroism. But you knew what you were getting yourself into, and you knew yourself into. Unlike me, who just rushed in without a plan against a much stronger enemy, and acted recklessly." He then looked me in the eyes, full of determination, and said, "Young Midoriya, you can become a hero. You will become a better hero than I ever was. And I will make sure that I will act as the hero the world needs me to be until my time comes to an end." Ever since then, he put careful attention in making sure that he could encourage people, regardless of their powers, to become heroes. Even though he was entrusted to be the symbol of peace, he still wanted to make sure that people would be able to defend themselves by encouraging them to take a stand and to save people without him around. Some people asked why he started to do this, while some said that All Might was trying to make the people around him safer. While his sudden actions did increase his positive popularity, even more than it already was, it had little positive effects on the actual crime rate. However, it did reduce the number of people who had died every day, as more people had come to martial arts studio, including Master Bang's studio, to learn how to defend themselves. From what Master Bang had said about the students, who were mostly quirkless people, it seems people like me won't be known as the weaklings for much longer. While All Might's change wouldn't drastically reduce suicide rates from quirkless people instantly, it would encourage the quirkless people who haven't given up on life yet to become heroes. It would also make a better infrastructure when he lost his quirk, and when Endeavor would be the #1 hero. Plus, this means that discrimination, while it will still exist, won't be socially accepted, because I won't be the only strong quirkless person who has gotten into UA. That is a big deal for the world and people like me. I thought as I went inside the massive school, with the words UA plastered on the entrance of the school. I took my time to soak in what I was doing here. This is not a dream, and thanks to the support of the students who saw me, and All Might, I am now able to become a hero. Sure, I had a plan to become a hero without UA, but this was my original plan, and I am glad that I am keeping it. I smiled as I went into the building, where I had to find my classroom, hoping that I wasn't late. Now, I have to find my classroom. 1A, 1A, 1. I then stood in front of the door of my classroom, which had a sign on the top of it that said 1A on it. The door was about twice my height, and about 3 times as wide. However, I wasn't intimidated but inspired to open the door to my classroom. I hope I can get the chance to apologize to some of the people who stood up for me. I thought as I opened the door. Then, I opened the door and found Katsuki putting his feet on the desk, while another student was lecturing him. "Remove your foot from that desk," the other student said. "Such an action is insulting to those who came to before you as well as the craftsman who made this desk." The student looked familiar, but I couldn't place where I met him. Wait, he was one of the people who stood up for me on the exam to present Mike. I should apologize to him. I thought, but, for some reason, I wanted to see how Katsuki would react. So I stood where I was. Like I care. What middle school did you come from, you extra? He said rather harshly. The student, stunned, said, I'm from semi-private academy. My name is Tenya Ida. Oh, so that's why he was unfamiliar with rude people not listening to him. He must be shielded from people like Bakugo. Then it hit me. Wait, Ida? Like Tensei Ida? The hero in Genium? So that's why he looked familiar. He looks very similar to his brother, excluding the glasses. I thought while analyzing Tenya. He said with an evil grin. A stuck-up elitist then? I should blow you to bits. You're awful. Do you wish to become a hero? He said, with a hint of disgust in his voice. I chuckled. You should know by now to never judge someone based on where they are from, or what group they're a part of, but based on their actions, and who they are. I realized I said that out loud, and, surprisingly, Katsuki didn't try to kill me. Instead, he scoffed and put his feet down on the floor. I was surprised, to say the least, but everyone else was even more surprised by my words, and how I could make Bakugo listen to me. Wow, so manly. I heard a guy whisper. I saw the source of the sound, which appeared to be a guy with red hair sticking out of his head. He looks a little plain-looking. I heard a girl whisper this time. She had green hair, and a froggy smile plastered over her face. I can hear you, damn it, Katsuki said, shutting up everyone's conversation. Ah, Midoriya. I heard a girl's voice again, only this time. It was much more familiar. I turned around, only to see Achiko Uraraka in a school uniform. We became friends, but I had forgotten to ask her phone number so I couldn't talk to her. She looks pretty cute in the school uniform. I can see that her chest looks big and… Wait, now I am thinking like some sort of pervert. Damn me. I scolded myself again for feeling this way. You got into UA. Just like All Might said. Makes sense though. You saved my life with that epic punch of yours. She said while punching the air, making me slightly chuckle. After she stopped talking, I collected myself, ridding my mind of the perverted thoughts present in it, and said, yeah, I probably wouldn't have gotten into the school without your, Ida's, and the other exam takers' help. They might not have let me in if it weren't for you guys, so thank you, Achiko. I turned around to Ida and to the other people who stood up for me. And thank you, Tenya, and everyone who helped me get in. I wouldn't have been able to get in without you guys and All Might. Everyone was stunned by how humble I acted. But what they were more surprised was that All Might had supported me. The people who weren't in the same environment as I had their jaws to the desk. But before I could be asked any questions by the students, I heard someone behind me calmly say, if you're here to socialize, then get out. I turned around, along with Achiko, and saw a man inside a caterpillar-like sleeping bag. He looked as if he hadn't slept for days. He then proceeded to suck on a juice pouch, while saying, this is the hero course. I, along with Achiko, proceeded to back up so that the person in the caterpillar sleeping bag could walk into the classroom. It took 8 seconds for you to quiet down, he said while standing up, out of his sleeping bag. Time is a precious resource. You lot aren't very rational, are you? Wait, that look, his tired attitude, his talk of rationality, that reminds me of a hero. But who? I thought of the less-known heroes. I'm your homeroom teacher, Shoto Aizawa. Pleased to meet you, he said. Homeroom teacher? Wait, Shoto Aizawa. That name sounds familiar. Wait, is he Eraserhead? He isn't a very well-known hero, kind of like a real-life ninja. The only thing that people know about him is that he exists. Well, looking at him, with his tired attitude and his dry eyes, he looks to have a quirk that requires him to have his eyes wide open for a long time. So it is probably an emitter-type quirk. However, he probably wouldn't be complaining if he was able to fix it, with the first thing he said to us. So that means that traditional dry eye solutions won't be effective for him. Maybe I should invent something dash. Quickly now, he said as he thrust some kind of uniform into my face, interrupting my thoughts. Change into your gym clothes and head to the grounds. We all changed into the gym uniforms, then left us to move to the grounds, as our homeroom teacher asked us to do. As we edged closer to the grounds, I started thinking, what is he going to do? We are skipping the ceremony and guidance counselor sessions, and we are going outside when everyone else is staying inside for the UA events. However, This guy, he is serious. He doesn't mess around. So I have to make sure I come in prepared. I started engaging adrenaline inside me, trying to give myself that extra edge that I thought I might need. Then, we approached the grounds, and we saw our teacher, bored as hell, who waited for us. So, we are going to test your quirks now, so don't take so much time to come here, he said, seemingly aggravated by how long we took, even though we came as quickly as we could. What about the entrance exam? Or guidance sessions? Achiko voiced out her thoughts as she stopped near our teacher. No time to waste on that stuff if you want to become heroes, he said lazily as he dragged his body across the field. UA is known for its freestyle education system, he explained. That applies to us teachers as well. I realized what he was going to do. Wait, he is going to be testing our physical skills, right? Because that is the only reason he would have to come out here. I also remember, when researching this school, that there is one teacher who was responsible for expelling 18 students when he felt they had no potential. This has to be that teacher. Wait, is he going to test us using the gym tests in middle school, just with quirks instead? That makes sense since those tests encompass most physical activity. He then started listing the middle school tests, like softball throwing, side-to-side jumps, etc., and then said, this country still insists on prohibiting quirks when calculating the average of those records. It's not rational. The Department of Education system is just procrastinating. I disagree, I said, shocking everyone around me, including my teacher. He turned around, with a face that made him look with hatred. I felt everyone's eyes burn into my skull, and I knew that I was going to be questioned about me suddenly ruining the atmosphere. Even Bakugo, who was well known for causing this kind of commotion, looked at me like I punched him and just walked away. Maybe that's where I got the blunt personality from. Well, I know I can be blunt, but I need to in certain circumstances. Dude, we know that you are manly, but you can't just dash. No, tell me, what did you want to say? Because we are all listening now. The teacher suddenly focused on me, as if he was waiting for me to slip up. Not that I did. Well, what if they, say, faced a person capable of erasing quirks, Eraserhead? I said cunningly. After figuring out his quirk and identity, he suddenly walked back with downright shock. He looked downright terrified that I knew his identity. How? How did you know? I shrug. You give off too much of yourself away, Mr. Aizawa. You give a tired look, despite not doing a lot of physical exercises, and I can see that you aren't the kind of person to complain without a reason. You also follow a lot of ninja technique. You seem to sleep on your left side, which protects your heart the most, which is common ninja, or should I say shinobi practice. You also use the element of surprise to see how prepared we were, and you wear black, which, with modern lighting, would be great with hiding. While not much is known about Eraserhead, he is known to take a lot from shinobi techniques for his fights. Everyone looked stunned with my assessment, but I wasn't finished with what I was saying. But, back to what I was saying, quirks aren't everything. As I said, if they face someone capable of removing quirks, they need to be able to defeat them without one. You need to develop your body with your quirk, sure, but you need to develop your body separately from it as well, otherwise, you will be your quirk, not the other way around. Is that so? Eraserhead said with an evil grin on his face. Then, you will have to do all the tests twice without your quirk, and I will take your lowest score. If you are lower than in first place in every event, then you will be expelled. Everyone looked stunned by his statement, but I was unfazed. Okay, so when can I start? I say confidently. Everyone looked incredulous at me and my calm attitude. Now, actually, he said, unfazed by my attitude. It was as if he knew I would fail. What was your score? Half a kilometer. 508.5 meters to be exact. Everyone had their jaws to the ground, as if they expected a lower score. Now try again, with your maximum strength, he said, hearing no sympathy come from his voice. He wants me to go all out. Huh? Well, might as well try. I tightened my muscles, concentrated some of my strength into my right arm, and threw it as high as I could. I have to set an example. If I'm going to be a hero, that means being able to speak my mind and be able to change people. Some people need only words, while some need actions. I need to show that I am not just talking. I put my fingers on the center of the ball, gripping it with my fingers. I felt the wind blowing in my face, the grass being blown around, and my face became serious, and I said, right before throwing, referencing an old hero I admired, "Killer move serious punch." I made the ball accelerate to the speed of sound in 1 second. I threw it with enough force to send the ball to another continent at the speed of sound, but I contained the force in front of me into the surrounding air to prevent casualties and to prevent the entire building behind me from collapsing. However, when I turned around, I realized it wasn't enough. Everyone had been thrown back towards the building, and many of the windows had cracked. The sonic boom that had been created pushed everyone back. I heard some ringing from my ears from the sonic boom that I had created, but I knew that I hadn't incurred serious injuries, and I knew I could still be able to do the other activities. "Hey, you guys okay?" I asked, genuinely concerned about everyone. "Yeah, we're fine. Mr. Aizawa, how far did Izuku throw?" Achiko said while getting off the dirt and grasshopper uniform. "Well, he threw it to America. Island, to be specific," he said calmly. He showed me the counter, which said 8,803,112 meters, or 8,803.112 kilometers, which was about 5,470 miles eastward. He showed it to the rest of the students. "What the hell?" all the students said. Meanwhile, Melissa POV. I was walking around the island after school had ended that day as I took in the beauty of spring. I walked alone, as I did most days after school had ended today. Wow, so many things are in bloom during the spring. Plants, trees. I sneezed, interrupting my thoughts. Allergies. I wonder if I will be able to find any new plants to study or things to find. Then, as if the heavens above had heard me, I saw an object in the air. I couldn't make out what it was, but I could tell that it was coming to my location quickly. I observed it as it fell, and the object fell several feet away from me, creating a crater in the ground. I was curious, so I approached the fallen object cautiously. Then, I saw the crater, which was about 4 inches wide and half a foot deep. Wait, a softball? I picked up the object within the crater with gloves that I had on me, carefully handling the ball, making sure no evidence could be tampered with or changed. Wait, that's no ordinary softball. That's the softball that is used for gym tests in Japan, according to Uncle Might. How can a softball be thrown this far out, even with a quirk? From the hole created alone, it must have been propelled for thousands of miles to gain this much momentum. But by what, or by who? I then decided to find out. I carefully brought the softball back to my lab to investigate, placing it in. While fingerprints aren't the most accurate way to find someone's identity, it is the fastest test that I can do here. So, I will have to do it. I then started the machine, as it collected the data. Well, there seem to be 2 fingerprints on here, but it is hard to say whose fingerprint it belongs to since one of the fingerprints are on a worn-out portion of the softball. However, the metallic center does have a fingerprint. Let me search for students in Japan, since that is supposedly where this ball is coming from. I used the database that Japan had publicly available on school kids and searched for a match. A match came up almost immediately on my over $7,000 scientific PC by Copula. Izuku Midoriya. Status: quirkless. Wait, he's like me? If he can propel this softball over 5,000 miles, then he might be as strong as Uncle Might. Maybe even stronger, and that's without a quirk. So that's who Uncle Might was talking about. I relaxed, knowing who had thrown it, and solving who my uncle was talking about. Wait, if he is quirkless, then how can he have thrown it that far? While people like Saitama and Geru have been as strong in the past, they were always just outliers. Wait, what if Izuku was someone like them, and he wants to challenge the supposedly common knowledge that quirkless people can't be strong? Maybe I should help him during his journey to becoming a hero. I started to grin, thinking of how I could help him, and planning my trip to UA, as well as thinking how to convince my dad to let me travel there. After all, Izuku Midoriya might just be the strongest hero. Whoa, how could you throw it that far? That was amazing. Do you really have no quirk? Everyone started crowding around me except Katsuki, who looked pissed, Achiko, who seemed to be jealous, and the other students who took the exam in the same testing location as I did, who weren't surprised in the slightest. Amazing, you say? Aizawa said, interrupting everyone. You're hoping to become heroes after 3 years here? And you think it'll be all fun and games? He said menacingly while creating a dark aura around himself. The one with the lowest score across all events will be judged hopeless, he paused, and will be expelled. Your fate is now in your hands, he said as he lifted his hair, revealing his sadistic-looking eyes. Welcome, this is the hero course of UA High. The lowest scorer will be expelled? Achiko said urgently. Along with Izuku, if he gets lower than a first place? That's unfair, for both Izuku and the rest of us. Hey, guys, he may be serious about expelling us, but he isn't wrong. Everyone now seemed confused by me defending Aizawa's actions, especially considering that he might expel me if I don't beat everyone. Murderers, fake heroes who only care about their bottom line, and villains emerging left and right. The world is an unfair and cruel place. So, if we want to become true heroes, we have to overcome any obstacles and become the best. Yes, he will expel the last place if he doesn't see any potential in them, and me if I don't get first place. But that means that we all have to work hard to overcome these challenges. We have to go beyond. I raise my fist into the air. Plus Ultra. Everyone raises their first along with me, even Katsuki. Mr. Aizawa led us to the 50-meter race. After a few races had gone by, and then, I had to race against Achiko. Good luck, Izuku, she said, with her signature grin that I was still having a hard time understanding. How can she be so happy? I say, slightly getting lost in her smile, before snapping out of it. Good luck to you. I saw her lower her hands to her feet, almost touching her toes. My advice would be to lighten your lower body, so you will be able to go longer unless you can't sustain it. But, if you can hold it for a few seconds, you can go significantly faster than if you just lighten your feet. Her eyes looked like she was thinking, why didn't I think of that? And she moved her hands to her legs, and activated her quirk as she was preparing herself. Go! Faster than most people blinked. I ran and completed the race in just over a second. 1.05 seconds to be precise. It took a second for most people to process what just happened. That's my fastest time yet. I had to have run at 48 meters per second, or 107 miles per hour to complete it that quickly. Well, since that was not difficult for me, I have to make sure that I don't push myself now unless I have to. Otherwise, I don't even know what people would think of me. Then, Achiko finished the race about 4 seconds afterward. Wow, that's my fastest time yet. Thanks, Izuku, she said, only a few inches away from kissing me. Wait, why am I thinking about her kissing me? Damn me. I mentally facepalm myself. No problem. I consciously scratched the back of my head, trying and failing to remove the thoughts from my head. How did you know that would work though? She said while walking outside of the track. Well, for my training, I had to read a lot of literature, I said, then dropping the perverted thoughts I had for much better and more rational thoughts. Some were for me to be able to learn about more ancient types of literature, but the other books I had to read were about exercise routines and human weight distribution, mainly to have a balanced, strong body, and how to use energy more efficiently. I clarified my thought process, but when I looked at her, her face still looked curious. It seemed that I hadn't explained the question fully. One time, I read a book called Human Body Dynamics, Classical Mechanics and Human Movement, really exciting name, I know, and it said that the lower human body takes about 32% of a human weight. Now, while that may depend whether you're a male or female, it would still take a massive amount of weight off of you if you applied zero gravity to your lower body. I turned around and saw her blushing slightly. That came out wrong, didn't it? She slowly nodded. I sighed, then sincerely said, I'm sorry for commenting on your weight. I didn't mean it like that. Oh no, it's fine. She shook her head. It was a little blunt though. I'm sorry again, I said, still sincerely apologizing. No, it's fine. She started to smile again. Though, you still are smart, with or without bucks. You were able to deduce who our teacher was from only looking at him in a few sentences, even though no one else knows who he is? That's amazing, Achiko said again, ever so close to my face, bringing back the somewhat perverted thoughts I had. But, before Achiko or I could say anything else, I had been called by Mr. Aizawa to go again against Katsuki. He came to the starting line and readied himself. When I looked at him, He had a smug smile on his face as if he already had a plan to beat me, and I wouldn't be able to stop him. He's probably going to use his explosions to distract or blind me, so I probably should close my eyes and run. I also have to make sure I run before he even reacts, and before it tries to blind me. So, I looked at everything, registering it in my brain. Then, I closed my eyes and waited for the signal. Go! I ran, and before Katsuki could react, I had already passed the finish line by the time he started. Based on me hearing his explosions about 100 milliseconds after I had stopped. I stopped when I heard my time, then looked around, revealing my eyes to the shocked faces of the students, as they heard it as well. 0.5 seconds. I walked away, turning around to go to the next event, trying to seem like I didn't care about the score. Wait, isn't that effectively 100 meters per second, or 224 miles per hour? A girl said, stopping me by putting her arm on my shoulder. I didn't turn around, even as she spoke. How is it possible that you would be able to outpace everyone, despite having no quirk? Because I wanted to, I said, trying to be vague about my strength level, so everyone wouldn't end up fearing me. Wanted to do what? She said, looking rather confused while inching closer to me. I felt her body heat, and I turned around, seeing the girl who had grabbed me. She had black hair and a spiky ponytail, and she had black eyes that tried to burrow into me. But with my stoic face, she couldn't get any information out of me. I know she is partially trying to intimidate me, but it doesn't look very intimidating. It is making her look cute. I facepalm myself. Seriously, what the hell is wrong with me? I am going to become a hero. I am not a pervert. I try to keep a stoic face and try to stop myself from blushing as I say, because I want to be the #1 hero. Why else would I be here for? I bring up more confidence as she backed up, possibly in fear, but perhaps in awe, as others had done around me. I stood up straight and said, if I couldn't be able to pass the test with flying colors and be the #1 in these tests, then I don't belong here. No one belongs here if they don't have the drive to become a hero. But mark my words, I pointed to all of the people in front of me. I am going to be the #1 hero, and nothing and no one will stop me. I turn around, leaving them with my words, and left to go to the next event. If you guys don't have the determination to become the best, then you are wasting your time here. You have to push yourself to the limits as I did, otherwise, you guys won't get anywhere. I went to the grip strength event next. Before me, I saw others. The highest score, before I had gotten there, was the force of 540 kilograms, or just under 1,200 pounds of force. That's the highest score? Let me see if I can top that. I smiled, thinking of my training and being able to lift cars in the air and throw them several feet away. So, I think, for my first turn, I should strive to get a higher score than anyone else could achieve, then, in the second one, undercut myself again by a slight margin. So, I set up myself with the monitor. I have to make sure that I am holding back. However, I need to make sure that no one can say that I am cheating, so I need to beat them by a significant margin. I wrapped my fingers around the machine, trying to set a baseline score that would beat everyone. I then heard the machine beep, and I looked at the score. 1,000 kilograms of force, or just over 2,200 pounds of force, was shown on the reader. Everyone crowded around me after hearing my beep on the reader. I had reset the monitor and put it back in my hand, but not before people had seen the score. What? What are you, a monster? You managed to beat everyone not once, but twice? You must have a lot of determination to push yourself to that degree, where you could so easily do that. The black-haired girl said, cutting through other people's conversations. She walked towards me, as people said, easily? That was easy for him? Yes, clearly it was. All of these tests seemed to be easy for him. Running at a quarter of the speed of sound, pressing the force of a car on his fingertips, throwing a ball to another continent. This isn't even the strongest you can do, is it? She said, slightly intimidating me. Damn it. Never mind. She can be plenty intimidating when she wants to. Then I ended up accidentally breaking the monitor in fear. When everyone noticed it, they backed away. Mr. Aizawa? I say as I approached him, seeing as how everyone created a pathway for me when I was going towards him. He said, his eyes half-lidded as he looked at me. I broke the machine. I think I pressed on it too hard. I say while scratching my head. No matter, he said, showing me a non-sadistic smile, surprising everyone. He almost looked proud, but with the slight tinge of annoyance, probably from me breaking it. You can just go to the next event. What was the maximum grip strength of the machine, though? I said while whispering, afraid of who could be hearing me. He then put on a serious face while whispering in my ear, 25,000 kilograms of force. I mentally facepalmed myself, mostly because I got scared for no reason. Ugh, this was a complete accident. I wanted to make sure that I wouldn't overexert myself. I didn't overexert myself this time, but I came damn close. I need to be more careful next time, otherwise, I will be treated the same way Saitama was. I went to the next event, not fully registering what was happening during that event, or the event after that, but what I did know was that I still got the highest score in the long jump and the side-to-side jumps. I wasn't sure why I didn't register what was happening, or why my mind blocked those memories, but I concluded that my brain was on autopilot, so I wouldn't react to fear. I snapped out of autopilot as soon as we came back to the throwing the softball. Uraraka threw it, which got her the score of infinity. Infinity? Wow. The infinity symbol actually popped up. Then, I started to get a little worried about being expelled, as I have never gotten a score of infinity. But, regardless, I want to throw the softball again, stepping up, both literally and figuratively, to the plate. Backslash. As I said, if you don't beat or tie first place, then you will be expelled, along with the last place. Mr. Aizawa said. I sighed. How can I possibly get infinity meters? Yes, I understand. Now, guys, I say while looking away, trying to keep the swirling emotions inside of me from being seen on my face. You should probably back up. Otherwise, you might get hurt. I also suggest putting these on, I say, turning around to give ear protection to the students. I had enough for 20 people, so I gave it to everyone. Oh fuck no, Katsuki said, using his quirk to burn the pair of earbuds that I was giving to him to ashes. No way. I don't need your fucking help. Okay, suit yourself. I say calmly, walking away from an emotional Katsuki. These were supposed to be earbuds that I could use to protect my ears as well as learn information from the news, in case I would have to save anyone. Right now though, it's purely for your protection. I have to get serious, and I need to push myself. However, if I don't get a first or second place now, then all of my work and time won't matter. I looked around me, where all the students had protective gear on that would protect their ears from the explosion, but it would still make sure that the people wearing them would still be able to communicate with each other. Some whispered, if Midoriya loses this, then he will be expelled? That's not fair for him. And he was doing so well. Deku deserves to be expelled from this school, the quirkless bastard that he is. Everyone looked at Katsuki when he said that, looking rather angry at him, but he scoffed. Hey guys, don't worry, I say, oozing fake confidence while looking at them, surprising everyone except the black-haired girl. Looks like I will have to put my money where my mouth is. So, I looked away. Well, how can anyone throw at infinity meters? Black holes have infinite density, but that just means they don't know the exact density, and no human can comprehend it. So, they are saying, as long as it can't transmit the location back, then it is infinity. Then I mentally slap myself. Of course, they would think of that. I can't outsmart it now since I can't throw it into a black hole. Also, if I throw it into space, who knows what it will hit? A meteor, a satellite. So, no throwing it into space. What I can do is throw it with my maximum strength. But, if I throw it with my full strength and with my full body, then I wouldn't be able to do the other tests. How about concentrating some of my strength in my arm again? But, to make sure no excess energy gets wasted going past the atmosphere, I have to angle it low, less than 1 degree. Probably around 1/40 of a degree at 1 million meters per second at around 165 centimeters above the ground. I set myself up to throw the softball. I made sure that, even though I will use all of my strength, I would contain it to my arm instead of the surrounding area. I threw it at 1/40 of a degree upwards and, again, a supersonic shockwave was created. Unlike last time, however, I threw it so hard that it wasn't even visible after I threw it, and I heard and felt my throwing arm's bones crack, while blood seeped out of me. I tried to contain the force of the ball to my arm and chest, and, for the force I couldn't contain, I made sure it was spread into the atmosphere. However, again, I wasn't able to contain the full force, and I felt a significant amount of force go behind me. Even though the people behind me tried to prepare for it, they were still blown back to the building, and this time, I heard the windows of the building shatter from the sonic boom. My earbuds kept my ears from bursting, but I still felt some ringing in my eardrums. What the hell? Everyone said. When I turned around, I saw that everyone except for the black-haired girl looked dazed. I didn't hear the beep from the monitor, which was supposed to indicate that it had stopped. Wait, the ball hasn't landed yet? I asked. Mr. Aizawa shook his head, then looked at me. No, it hasn't. Not yet. So we waited in anticipation as more blood started to seep out of my wounds. Everyone was talking among themselves, wondering where it went, while some were confused about how I was still standing. About half a minute passed before Achiko said, "Wait, what's that?" While pointing towards the sky. A rounded object was hurled across the sky, looking to be burning a purple color. It rushed past the horizon line, disappearing. Another 30 seconds afterward, it came again, still burning a bright purple. Wait, if it is burning the color purple, that means that it must be hotter than plasma. That means that that is hotter than the surface of our sun. How is it possible that it hasn't disappeared by burning through the atmosphere? If you are wondering how it hasn't disappeared yet due to atmospheric burning, the black-haired girl said, grabbing my attention as I turned around. She stood up, as well as grabbing the attention of many other students. That is because it isn't made with ordinary fabric, like cottons, or metals, like iron or steel. The fabric is made up of a combination of graphene and tungsten, which, while not 100% efficient in creating the most lightweight and strong materials, makes a fabric that it can survive plasma temperatures for short periods of time, and makes it aerodynamic enough so the ball won't be slowed down by atmospheric friction. I stare at her, confused, not because I didn't know what she was talking about, but because I knew exactly what she was talking about. Wait, how did you know what it was made of? I asked, slightly stunned by her knowledge of materials. Oh, she said, covering her face as if she were blushing in embarrassment, while also looking away from me. Well, my father and mother have patents for several different common technologies, and have sold it to many different manufacturers. I also contributed to some of them. In the time when I was curious, I read quite a bit about materials and alloys, especially in commercial use. I suggested to my parents my design for the softball, and they got it implemented across Japan, including UA. Wait, you, at less than 14, were able to make patents that influenced all of Japan, I said, sounding like the curious kid I once was while hiding and ignoring the pain in my right arm. That's amazing. She then started blushing more, but she nodded while looking slightly proud of herself at me. Yeah, I guess it is. I then start to activate my nerdy brain, lowering my guard for a second, and still not registering the blood coming out of my arm. But why graphene instead of crystalline structures? If you used, say, diamonds, sure, it would cost more, but you would only use one material instead of two, and the melting point of diamonds is even higher than that of tungsten, and diamonds are much more commercially viable to get into a fabric. Throw tungsten and/or graphene combined with diamond fabric, and you could get a much more durable material against plasma. She had her hand under her chin as if she hadn't thought of that before. I haven't thought of that before. I don't know why. But, as she was about to say more, everyone became quiet. The monitor beeped. 89,270,312 meters is what the monitor said as Mr. Aizawa showed it to us. Wait, that's more than 55,470 miles, which means that the ball circled the Earth twice. That's the second highest score for this test. I was slightly crestfallen after learning my score, but I still stood tall after seeing my score, because even though I knew that I had lost, I also knew that I was able to achieve some of my goals. I beat nearly everyone. Even if I will be expelled, at least I know that all of my work wasn't wasted. I know that, now, all the work and training I did wasn't for nothing. I slightly smiled to myself while turned the other way, enjoying the bittersweet moment. Then someone interrupted my thoughts. You've been able to throw a softball across the Earth 2 times without a cork? The black-haired girl said, looking at me in awe instead of the fear I usually saw on people's faces. Who are you? Me, I say, pointing at myself with my non-broken arm. I felt the atmosphere shift, and I saw everyone look at me. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and I am going to become the strongest hero. Thanks for watching, Legends. If you enjoyed part 1 of What If Deku Was the Strongest Hero, make sure to smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss part 2. Your support means everything, and I can't wait to share more of Deku's journey with you. Another huge thank you to American Theorist Brothers for the awesome story. Stay legendary, and I'll see you in the next one.